IISD Reporting Services is here in Warsaw, Poland, for the 19th session of the Conference of the Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, reporting on selected side events convening in parallel with the Warsaw Climate Talks. On Wednesday, November the 20th, an event organized by the Global Environment Facility addressed challenges and opportunities for developing countries in their pursuit of climate-resilient development through national adaptation plans. William Ehlers from the Global Environment Facility noted.
And the idea was to show some experience from countries as well as sources of funding and support to be able to carry these out. So we had two country representatives, and then we had people from GIZ in Germany, as well as from the GEF. This allowed the audience to understand the process, to understand the difficulties, the challenges, and also the opportunities that exist, and how they can use the support that comes multilaterally and bilaterally to be able to get the job done.
In her opening remarks, Naoko Ishii, Chief Executive Officer and Chairperson of the Global Environment Facility, stressed,
"We need to empower countries to lead and manage this process."
RAWLESTON Moore from the Global Environment Facility emphasized.
GEF is the largest financer of adaptation globally. We have financed almost $1 billion worth of concrete adaptation projects which are actually on the ground, being implemented and putting adaptation practices and activities in place.
Panelists delivered presentations mapping the progress in the countries. AINUN NISHAT from Bangladesh outlined the steps his country has undertaken to integrate climate change adaptation in its national planning and policy frameworks.
Now, Bangladesh, I jokingly say, is nature's laboratory for natural disaster. Our first theme is food security, livelihood security, and health security. The second one is to pay attention to disaster management practices, and Bangladesh has good disaster management practices. The third theme is infrastructure to meet the disasters, the flood and drought and storm surge and cyclone. The fourth one is knowledge management and research. And fifth one, we incorporated the mitigation aspect into our development plan. And finally, the sixth one, which is the most important one, in my view, based on the experience of being involved in all these major documents, is the institutional arrangement. So what we have been doing, slowly going to the ministries and telling them, look, you need to work together. Agriculture and water, health and water supply and sanitation. Adaptation is a continuous process.
ALOYSIUS KAMPEREWERA from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Management of Malawi identified the need for a comprehensive approach to climate change with attention to mitigation, adaptation, and enabling factors.
We need to improve those processes to kind of mainstream climate change in various processes of planning. My experience has shown that people are willing to incorporate climate change into development planning, including budget allocations. But the how and entry points.
MOHAMMED ZMERLI from Tunisia's Ministry of Environment described the NAP process in his country.
In order to prevent expected serious impacts and build resilience to changing climate in national and local levels, many adaptation plans and strategies were established in participatory process. The impact of climate change vary across regions in Tunisia and will affect mostly the already vulnerable livelihoods of rural population in the interior region and central and southern Tunisia.
RAWLESTON Moore from the Global Environment Facility emphasized the need for country-driven and coordinated national adaptation plans and highlighted the NAP Global Support Program.
It's only when you go to the countries that you really understand the in-depth needs, the requirements which they have for GEF resources and the impact that the GEF resources have on the ground.
Pointing to work on national adaptation plans supported by EU member states, Christoph Feldkotter from the GIZ identified several steps for initial guideline setup.
The EU member states are among the major supporters of this pilot program for climate resilience. Each of the countries shown in that box, in the box at the lower right, the green box called implementation strategies, has or will soon have something that very closely resembles an implementation strategy. That is their so-called strategic program for climate resilience, or SPCR. And then last but not least, the work on monitoring of adaptation and of adaptation effectiveness That's a relatively new field, so there are fewer countries where support is being provided yet.
A series of question and answers followed.
May you show relationship between adaptation, loss damage, recovering, and building resilience in terms of science, technology, policy, and also another measures.
So the sole purpose of having a guiding policy was basically that institutions working in disaster management as part of the climate change and also other institutions affected, they must have clear roles. And when loss is experienced, then people must have ideas on where to get support at national level, but also elsewhere.
Do you think that the private sector has a key role in this NAPS process?
Yes, there is a key role to play. I would like to stress once again that it will be very important in the NAP process to learn from ongoing initiatives, because we have had this, or we still have this ongoing discussion about the private sector and adaptation under the pilot program for climate resilience, where several years of experience have accumulated, and I think it is really crucial to make sure that that experience also flows into the NAP process.
Looking forward, moderator William Ehlers addressed participants with concluding remarks.
The reaction was very positive, and we hope that they all took home a good message that can be useful for them.